flower stem snapped inside Clara's fist before we reached the courier. She kept smiling at the downtown farmer's market as if the envelope waiting for her could not take away her book. Condensation had already softened one corner of the cardboard carrier in my hand, and when I shifted the two coffees to keep them level, the wet edge tore under my thumb. The courier stood beneath a white canvas awning 30 yards ahead, holding a clipboard and a manila envelope stamped with the name Apex Media. Clara looked back at me. Her smile was for the crowd. The broken stems were for me. "You brought the cinnamon scone," she said. "You forget to eat when you are cornered." "I forget to eat when I'm writing." "You are not writing." "Then I am cornered." The carrier sagged again. I tightened my grip without crushing it. Apex had been withholding disputed backlist royalties in escrow for nearly 2 months. Now they were asking a court to stop Clara from circulating her new manuscript until a 5-year historical fiction writer could be reviewed. If the temporary injunction was granted, the book would sit frozen while the company argued that her character's research framework and even the political era belonged to them. Clara could not simply abandon the manuscript and write another. The draft was built from her older sister's journals, letters, and hospital notebooks. Apex knew only that it was personal. They did not yet know how personal, and Clara intended to keep it that way. She had hired me because I was a literary agent who read contracts like other people read endings. My job was to protect her publishing rights, organize the commercial evidence, and bring in licensed counsel before Apex turned intimidation into a court order. The courier checked his phone. Clara's hand tightened around the bouquet. Another stem gave way. "Ready?" I asked. "No." "Good. That means we are not confusing readiness with consent." Her eyes moved to mine. I held out one coffee. "You decide whether to take the envelope. If you do, we preserve it, call Maya, and review every page. If you walk away, he will document the attempt and serve your counsel instead." "You already called Maya?" "I told her to keep the afternoon open. I did not send her anything." Clara took the coffee. The cold cup gave her hands something solid to hold besides flowers. "Still trying to run 3 steps ahead," she said. "Only 2. "That is not better." The courier approached us before we could reach him. He looked young, bored, and apologetic in the way of people paid to deliver consequences they did not create. "Clara Reed?" She set the bouquet against her hip and accepted the envelope herself. He asked her to sign the delivery log. She pressed her thumbnail into the side of her index finger, a small movement I had noticed the day she hired me. Then she signed, returned the clipboard, and watched the courier disappear into the crowd. The market continued around us. A vendor called out the price of peaches. Someone laughed near the flower stall. A child dropped a paper cup and cried as if the day had split open. Clara stared at the sealed flap. I did not ask her to open it. "My office," I said. "Maya joins us there, 1 page at a time." She nodded, then looked down at the bouquet. Half the stems had folded inside the paper. "I paid $20 for these." "You negotiated poorly." "I was distracted." "You should have hired representation." That earned the smallest curve at the corner of her mouth. The torn coffee carrier made it 3 blocks before the bottom gave way. I caught both cups against my shirt. Clara caught the bakery bag. Coffee splashed across my sleeve, but none reached the envelope. She looked at the brown stain spreading over the pale blue fabric. "You saved the legal notice." "I have priorities." "And sacrificed your dignity." "That was already under review." She laughed once, quickly, then stopped when the envelope shifted beneath her arm. Still, the laugh had happened. I folded the torn carrier flat and tucked it into the bakery bag instead of dropping it in the nearest bin. I told myself I kept it because the market had no recycling container. That was not the whole truth. Maya Chen was waiting in my conference room when we arrived. She was a publishing litigator with a quiet voice, a sharp eye for procedural traps, and no patience for agents who believed reading contracts made them attorneys. She had corrected me on that point often enough that I now corrected myself before she had the chance. Beside her sat Owen Blake, the junior agent who had kept my agency functioning through 3 acquisitions, 1 canceled book tour, and my recurring belief that sleep was optional. Owen took in the coffee stain on my shirt. Negotiation casualty? He asked. Packaging failure. Clara placed the envelope on the conference table. Maya did not touch it. Do I have your permission to open and review this with you? Clara looked at me, then back at Maya. Yes. Maya photographed the sealed envelope, logged the time of receipt, opened it along the edge, and removed the notice. Apex had filed an application for temporary relief that morning. They alleged that Clara's current manuscript fell within the old writer and asked the court to prevent submission, licensing, or distribution until the dispute was resolved. They had also notified Clara that future royalty distributions would remain in escrow under the contract's dispute provision. They cannot empty your personal accounts, Maya said. They can hold the royalties they control, and they can ask the court to preserve the status quo. We respond before the hearing. When? Clara asked. 4 weeks from today. Clara's thumbnail found her finger again. Maya continued, the contract has a notice and cure clause. If Apex has underpaid or withheld sums outside the permitted escrow provision, we serve a breach notice now. They get 20 business days to cure. Reese will build the accounting map. I will handle the filing. Clara looked at me. And the manuscript? You keep it. I said, we make no submission to Apex unless you authorize it or a court orders limited review under protective terms. I'm not giving them my sister's journals. Then we do not use the journals. Maya leaned forward. The court may need enough information to understand why the manuscript is distinct. That does not mean turning over private source material. We can begin with genre classification, your proposal history, editorial emails, and a sworn description from you. You choose what enters the record. Clara nodded once. Owen placed a yellow legal pad in front of me. Your favorite emotional support object. It is a standardized evidence tool. It has your initials embossed on the cover. I value continuity. Clara sat down, still holding the unopened coffee. The bouquet rested on the floor beside her chair, its paper dark where the broken stems leaked water. Maya assigned the first tasks. Preservation notice. Contract audit. Royalty reconciliation. Email archive. A chronology of every conversation about the new book. When the meeting ended, Clara stayed in her chair. I can still change agents, she said. Yes. You would hand over everything? Everything that belongs to you? Maya remains independent counsel, whether I represent you or not. And your fee? Earned only under the agreement you signed. No litigation bonus, no rights participation, no condition tied to winning. She studied my face as if checking the clause against the man. Then she took the cinnamon scone from the bakery bag, broke it in half, and handed me the larger piece. You spilled your coffee, she said. That is not an apology. It is carbohydrate-based dispute resolution. I accepted it. She ate exactly half of her half, wrapped the rest in the paper, and left it on the conference table. She never explained why she always did that. During the first week, my office changed shape around the case. The original contract occupied one side of the conference table. The historical fiction writer sat beside it. Royalty statements, editorial emails, and licensing schedules filled labeled folders along the wall. The torn coffee carrier remained near my desk, held together with one strip of clear tape Owen had applied across the broken corner. He had written evidence of human limitation on the tape. I had crossed out human and written packaging. Clara arrived every morning with 2 coffees in a new carrier and 2 scones in a paper bag. She still left half of one untouched. Owen began placing the leftovers in the staff kitchen without comment. On the 3rd day, I found an email chain between Clara and Sterling Voss, her former executive editor. The messages discussed the earliest version of the manuscript. Sterling called it too dependent on memoir architecture and outside the historical program Apex contracted to publish. I highlighted the lines and added them to the evidence map. Then I opened an attached note Clara had sent in the same thread. It was addressed to her sister. Only one paragraph appeared in the preview, but it was enough to tell me the attachment was not business correspondence. I marked the file private and added its existence to the index. Clara entered the room before I could close the screen. Her eyes found the attachment name. What did you open? Only the preview generated by the archive. You marked it. I marked it private. You put it on your evidence map. As a source document, we would exclude unless you authorized. No. The word cut through the room. She crossed to my desk and closed the laptop herself. That letter was never for Apex. It was never for a court. It was not for you. I did not read beyond the preview. You still decided where it belonged. The old reflex rose before I could stop it. I wanted to explain that classification prevented accidental disclosure, that an evidence map required complete boundaries, that I had protected the document by identifying it. Every answer would have defended my process instead of hearing her. I removed the yellow legal pad from beneath my hand and turned it toward her. You were right. She stayed standing. I treated privacy like another category I could manage. I said, that was not my decision. I opened the laptop, deleted the attachment reference from the case index, and printed a clean evidence map without it. Then I gave her the old copy. You can destroy this. She looked at the paper, but did not take it. What if the letter helps? Then Maya explains the exact legal value and the risks. You decide, until then, it does not exist in our strategy. Clara picked up the page. She tore it once through the middle, then again. The sound was softer than the flower stems at the market, but I felt it more. Do not make me fight you too, she said. You will not have to. She left without the coffee she had brought me. That afternoon, Owen placed it beside my keyboard. You apologized? He asked. Yes. Without a footnote? Yes. Are you unwell? I looked at the torn carrier on the desk. I assumed competence gave me permission. Owen leaned against the doorframe. That sentence is going to cost me money and therapy. Go back to work. He did, but not before turning the carrier so his handwritten label faced me. The following morning, Clara returned. Her cardigan was buttoned one hole off at the collar. She set down 2 coffees in the paper bag of scones. Then she placed a signed authorization beside the carrier. It allowed Maya to use Sterling's genre classification email. It excluded all journals, letters, medical notes, and family correspondence unless Clara later approved a specific item in writing. I added a revocation line, she said. I saw, you can stop using the evidence whenever I tell you. Yes. And if you think I am making a bad decision, I explain why once, then I follow your instruction unless it would require me to violate the law or my professional obligations. She glanced at the repaired carrier. Owen's label is accurate. It is defamatory. It may be our strongest exhibit. By the second week, the commercial pattern had become clear. Apex had moved several categories of royalties into escrow after Clara declined the renewal offer. Some withholding was permitted while the rights dispute remained active. Some was not. Foreign license income from 2 older books had been delayed without support in the agreement. Owen built a spreadsheet comparing scheduled distributions against actual payments. I traced each variance back to the relevant clause. Maya reviewed the work and drew a red line through one of my legal conclusions. Commercially persuasive, she said, legally incomplete. What is missing? The contract allows a 30-day accounting objection before the cure period starts. I checked the date. We were 4 days early. I had built the strategy around the wrong trigger. Clara sat across from us, watching. I could have blamed the drafting. The clause was buried in a royalty reporting appendix written 6 years after the main agreement. Instead, I wrote the correction at the top of the yellow pad. Accounting objection first. Breach notice second. My mistake, I said. Maya nodded. Good. Now it will not become the client's mistake. Clara's thumb hovered near her finger, then lowered. We sent the accounting objection that afternoon. Apex responded with a 6-page letter calling every variance administrative timing. Maya called it useful. Owen called it fiction. Clara said, "Do not insult fiction." The third week brought the first public pressure. A trade newsletter published an anonymous quote describing Clara as volatile, unmanageable, and unable to maintain professional relationships. Sterling reposted it without comment. Clara read the article in my office, set her phone face down, and reached for the remaining half of her scone. She did not eat it. They are building the story they want the judge to hear, she said. Maya shook her head. The judge will hear evidence. The article is for authors and editors who might work with you after this. Then I should respond. You can, I said, but not because they chose the timing. Clara looked at me. What would you do? The question tempted me toward a polished answer. Instead, I handed her 3 options. A short factual statement. No response. An interview after the hearing, when the documents could support her. She read each one. What do you recommend? She asked. Wait, let Apex spend credibility before we spend yours. She chose to wait. 2 days later, another author called Maya. Her name was Evelyn Ross. She had left Apex the previous year after a royalty dispute. She had no interest in public attention, but she was willing to provide a declaration showing the same accounting delay language used in Clara's letters. Maya interviewed her independently. I was not present. Clara approved using only the accounting pattern, not Evelyn's personal correspondence. The declaration gave our breach argument weight without exposing the material Clara had protected. That evening, I found half a scone on my desk with a note beneath it. You were right once, do not make it a habit. I kept the note in the top drawer. The 4th week began with Apex filing its full motion for a temporary injunction. They argued that Clara's brand, readership, and historical settings were inseparable from the intellectual property they had developed with her. Sterling submitted a declaration claiming the new manuscript was a direct continuation in style and commercial identity. He did not mention his email rejecting the project as outside the imprint. Maya read the filing twice. Then she smiled without warmth. He signed that under oath. Clara stood by the window, pressing her thumbnail into her finger. Can they still win? They can always win, Maya said. That is why we do not promise outcomes. But Sterling created a contradiction the judge will have to see. We spent the next week preparing the opposition. My evidence map linked every statement in Sterling's declaration to the email archive, proposal history, and contract language. Owen finalized the royalty chronology. Evelyn signed her declaration. Maya drafted the legal argument and a request for limited accounting discovery. Clara wrote her own sworn statement. She did not identify her sister. She described the manuscript as a standalone literary work using contemporary memoir structure, private family history, and a different narrative period from her Apex series. When she finished, she handed the draft to Maya, not me. That mattered. Maya reviewed the legal language. I reviewed only the publishing history after Clara authorized it. The night before filing, rain struck the office windows in thick diagonal lines. Clara sat sideways in the armchair, wearing the gray cardigan with the top buttons misaligned again. The yellow legal pad rested on her knees. She had taken over my habit of lining the pen against the page, though she did it crooked enough to make a point. Owen had gone home after threatening to lock the office from the outside if I tried to sleep on the leather sofa again. Maya was on a video call with the court filing service. I searched the archive one final time for the original project classification. A second email appeared beneath Sterling's rejection. It had been copied to Apex's contracts director. The contracts director replied, "Agreed. No option or non-compete review required unless the project is materially reconceived as historical fiction." I read the sentence twice. "Clara." She looked up. I turned the screen toward her without opening any attachment. The contracts department confirmed Sterling's classification. She crossed the room. The rain filled the pause while she read. "This was sent before I delivered the proposal," she said. 6 months before Apex claimed the opposite. Maya muted her call and joined us. She read the thread, checked the header, and asked Clara for permission to use it. Yes. Maya added the email as a new exhibit. Clara continued staring at the screen. "It should feel like enough," she said. "It is strong," Maya replied. "It is not magic. They will find another angle. They may—" Clara stepped back. Her hand closed around the cardigan near her ribs. "They will subpoena the agency. They will drag Reese into discovery. They will call every editor who ever disliked me. I should end the representation before this gets worse." I stayed beside the desk. She moved toward the door. "Clara, if I fire you, Apex loses the story that you pulled me into this. They will invent another story. Your agency is smaller than they are." "Yes." You could lose clients. Yes. Her hand reached the brass handle. I wanted to tell her she was wrong. I wanted to promise the agency could absorb anything Apex did. Neither answer would give her facts. I opened the bottom drawer and placed 3 documents on the desk. The agency's litigation coverage certificate, Maya's independent engagement letter, a transition memorandum transferring all of Clara's active submissions to Owen if she chose to terminate me. You can fire me tonight. I said, your case continues with Maya. Owen takes over the commercial work. No deadline is missed and no file is withheld. Clara looked at the documents. I prepared those before we filed anything. I continued, not because I expected you to leave, because staying only counts if leaving is safe. Her fingers slipped from the door handle. The torn coffee carrier sat at the corner of my desk, tape across its side, Owen's label still visible. Clara looked from it to the indexed folders, then to me. No one could keep up with you, I said. It was the accusation Sterling had given the trade press and the excuse Apex had used whenever she resisted being managed. Her eyes moved over the transition memorandum. Then she smiled, tired but steady. Maybe I only need you to... The rain softened against the glass. I did not cross the room. I handed her a pen. Then authorize tomorrow's filing, I said, because it is still your decision. She returned to the desk and signed. Maya filed the opposition and declaratory counterclaim the next morning. The 5th week ended in a courtroom with high windows and bad acoustics. Apex asked for an order preventing Clara from submitting the manuscript anywhere until trial. Maya argued that the company could not show a likelihood of success after classifying the project outside its own writer. She also showed that Apex's royalty accounting had already become disputed before the injunction request, weakening its claim that it was acting only to preserve contractual rights. The judge read Sterling's email twice. Then she asked Apex's counsel why the company had changed its genre classification only after Clara declined the renewal. The answer took 3 minutes and resolved nothing. The judge denied the broad injunction. She issued a narrower preservation order. Clara could continue revising the manuscript and sharing it with Maya and designated independent counsel. But she would wait before signing a publication contract until the parties completed limited discovery and attended a settlement conference. It was not total victory. It was enough to keep the manuscript in Clara's hands. Outside the courtroom, Maya closed her file. The evidence map did its job. She said to me, clean chronology, no wasted exhibits. Praise from Maya arrived so rarely that Owen later asked whether I had recorded it. Clara stood beside the courthouse steps, holding a coffee in each hand. She gave one to Maya first, then one to me. What do we do now, she asked. Accounting discovery, Maya said. Then we make them choose between a release and explaining their internal emails under oath. For the first time in 5 weeks, Clara ate an entire scone. During the 6th week, Apex produced the accounting records. The documents showed that the foreign license royalties had not been placed in escrow under a genuine dispute. They had been rerouted after Clara rejected the renewal proposal, then described internally as retention leverage. The phrase appeared in an email from Sterling to Finance. Maya read it aloud once. Nobody needed to hear it twice. The 30-day objection period had expired. Apex had not corrected the shortfall within the cure window. Maya served the formal termination for cause notice. Apex disputed it. That was expected. What they could no longer dispute was the risk of discovery. Evelyn's declaration suggested Clara was not the only author affected by the accounting practice. Owen's spreadsheet matched the internal ledger. Sterling's sworn statement conflicted with the project classification emails. The 7th week brought a court-ordered settlement conference at Apex headquarters. This time, I did not walk in pretending the folders were legal authority. Maya carried the pleadings. I carried the publishing chronology, the royalty model, and a proposed term sheet Clara had approved line by line. Clara carried nothing except a small notebook and the same metal pen she had used to sign the courier's delivery log. Sterling sat across the table with Apex's general counsel and 2 outside litigators. He began with the old voice, low and patient, as if Clara had confused resistance with a temporary mood. You have made your point, he said. There is no reason to damage a relationship that built your career. Clara pressed her thumbnail against her finger. Then she saw me notice. Her hand relaxed. Maya spoke first. We are here to resolve claims, not rewrite history. Apex's lead attorney opened our indexed exhibits. He stopped at the contracts director's email. Then at the internal phrase retention leverage. We can discuss a limited waiver, he said. Clara looked at Maya. Maya gave a slight nod. The floor belonged to Clara. I leaned back from the table. I had built the commercial door. Maya had removed the legal lock. Clara had to decide whether to walk through. No limited waiver, she said. A full release of the non-compete and option provisions as they apply to all future work. Sterling shifted in his chair. Clara continued. Payment of the withheld royalties. With interest. Within 5 business days. Written confirmation that Apex has no ownership, approval, consultation, or first refusal rights in the current manuscript. No use of my sister's materials. No public statement about the dispute without mutual approval, and all future contact through counsel. The general counsel turned to Maya, and the declaratory claim? Dismissed after execution and payment, Maya said. The accounting claim remains preserved if the transfer is late. Sterling opened his mouth. His lead attorney lifted one finger without looking at him. The silence that followed was the first honest thing Apex had offered all day. The attorney closed the folder. We will circulate a revised release by tomorrow. Clara capped her pen. By noon, she said. He looked at her. By noon, he agreed. The release took another week. 3 drafts came back with language that tried to preserve Apex's claim over derivative branding. Maya removed it each time. One payment clause allowed the company to delay for administrative reasons. Owen flagged it before I did. Letting another person find the trap first, he said. How are you coping? Poorly. Growth is ugly. Clara sat in the conference room with the torn coffee carrier between us. The tape had begun to peel. She pressed it down with one finger. You could throw this away, she said. It is part of the institutional archive. It held coffee for 6 minutes. It failed under pressure and remained useful. That is disturbingly personal for cardboard. The final release arrived on the last Friday of the 8th week. Maya reviewed the legal terms. Owen confirmed the payment schedule. An independent publishing attorney named Leah Moreno reviewed Clara's future rights language and the relationship between her representation agreement and any personal relationship she might later choose to have with me. Leah required that any term affecting my compensation or authority receive separate review. Clara could move her account to Owen or another agency at any time without penalty beyond earned commissions. I agreed before Clara asked. Apex signed at 11:18. The withheld royalties reached escrow counsel that afternoon and transferred to Clara's account the following business day. The non-compete release was permanent. The option was gone. The manuscript remained hers. Apex could contact her only through Maya regarding final accounting. When the signatures were complete, Clara stood in the same conference room where the envelope had first been opened. She did not press her thumbnail into her finger. She closed the folder and handed it to Maya. Now it is done, Maya said. Clara turned to me. I kept my hands at my sides. You have your book, I said. I have my book, she corrected. The distinction mattered. Then she stepped closer. And I have a question that's not about representation. I waited. Dinner, she said. Next Friday. No contracts, no court filings, no trade magazines. Independent counsel approved this invitation. Leah told me not to let you turn a date into a compliance memo. That sounds irresponsible. She also said Owen can take over direct negotiation on my next deal if either of us feels the boundary is unclear. That sounds more like her. Clara smiled. Is that a yes? Yes. She lifted her hand, paused long enough for me to see the choice, then rested her palm against the front of my coat. The touch was brief. It was also the first thing between us that belonged to neither Apex nor the case. 6 months later, the downtown farmers market was bright with early autumn color. Clara walked beside me instead of half a step ahead. She wore a cream sweater, a rust-pink skirt, and a small leather bag across her shoulder. A fresh bouquet rested in the crook of her arm, held loosely enough that every stem remained intact. I carried 2 coffees in a new cardboard carrier. The bottom was reinforced. Owen had drawn a small shield on one corner and written version 2. Clara had chosen an independent publisher after reviewing 3 offers with Owen and Leah. The new contract protected her family source materials, gave her final consultation on the ending, and barred any use of a ghostwriter without her written approval. I had not negotiated the personal conflict provisions. Leah had. Owen had handled the final business points. My role had been limited to the parts Clara specifically asked me to review. We stopped at a weathered picnic table near the same market entrance where the courier had found us. Clara placed an unmarked manila folder on the wood. Inside was the execution copy of the new publishing agreement. She read the final signature page once more. Then she signed without looking at me for permission. I signed only the agency acknowledgement Owen had prepared, confirming receipt and nothing more. Clara closed the folder. Filed, I said, "You are not filing anything. Owen is." "I am emotionally filing it." "That is not a recognized procedure." "It should be." She reached into the bakery bag and broke a cinnamon scone in half. As always, she ate only half of her half. I looked at the uneaten piece. "No," she said. "I did not ask. You were about to." "I have accepted that some evidence remains unexplained." "Good." She picked up her coffee, then looked at the new carrier in my hand. The crowd pressed around us, but the reinforced cardboard stayed level between our steps. The end. Closing thoughts. Core lesson: trust grows when support protects someone's choices instead of replacing them, and when practical help leaves the other person with more freedom than they had before. Green flag. Reese does not use Clara's fear, career, or financial pressure to control her. He brings in independent counsel, admits his mistake, gives her a safe way to leave, and lets her decide what evidence, strategy, and relationship she wants. Audience question: would you have fought Apex for the manuscript or walked away and started a different book? Please like and subscribe so we can share more stories like this.